Good morning. I'm out in the garden this morning. It is like 64 degrees right now. It feels beautiful. Have my coffee out here with me and just kind of wanted to come out and say hi. I was very busy this weekend out here. The tomato area looking pretty fresh. I finally got the grass around the tomatoes pulled out and some nice thick straw put down around these. So hopefully they will kind of start to take off a little more. Some of them are a little spindly looking. If you watch the garden tour, I walked down this row obviously and showed you all these plants. Some of them look really good and some of them are a little, I don't know, they just kind of act like they're a little bit stunted. And I think it's just because they were competing with so much grass just directly around them for so long. So that's cleared out and I have some huge piles of weeds and stuff to deal with now. I just need to go back to the compost, but yes, I got that done this weekend and it feels so much better to not have as much of a jungle back in this corner as I did before. That being said, this over here in this area is really bad. So that is next on the list, is getting this area kind of where I had to shove all the cherry tomatoes. The grass and stuff has just gotten so tall, and so that's next on the list of areas to tackle. So hopefully this season, like by the end of the season and by the time the frost comes, I can really get a good hold on this area, on this whole space. The clover has started to come up that I've planted, but the crabgrass is also coming back. So it's gonna be a constant battle out here, I think. But I do feel pretty good about where things are going, especially since I have the tomatoes cleaned out. Like, it just looks so nice over there now, which I love. I also cleaned out the onion bed of all the weeds. I need to top dress that with like some compost. I have not been back in the corner where I had my compost. I just had like a pile that I had going of like the weeds and stuff that I would pull up. And in the bottom of that was some pretty decent compost. But it got displaced when the garden got dug up. And I haven't been back there to really like assess like what the situation is. So I do still have my 2 plastic bins of compost. Those are the ones I have been using to make my compost teas. So I do have some of that. I don't know if I have enough to top dress that bed, but I don't know, we'll see. I may have to go grab a bag of like garden soil or something to top that off, because when I filled these beds, when you fill beds for the first time, they look really nice and fluffy and full, and then over time that soil compacts and your beds aren't as deep. So I'm gonna try to keep them relatively full, and over the years they should build up to the point where they don't need to be filled every year. They just need to be top dressed with some compost or worm castings or whatever. So I'm gonna try to get that figured out this week so I can start planting. I decided I'm gonna do a lot of peas in that one bed, so that'll be super cool. I have a ton of peas that I can plant. So yeah, looking forward to having some fall stuff going in the ground. But I did want to kind of spitball something with you because I've been pondering some things. So as you know, I've been sick for like the last like a week-ish. And I'm feeling much better now. I'm still a little congested, but I'm like feeling so much better. So while I was sick, obviously I can't like be out here doing anything, but I can think about it because that's what I do. So I have this space here and it is about 1,600 square feet. I'm gonna try to move around a little bit. So the space I have out here total, including like the landscaping we have back here and more of the greenhouses, is about 1,600 square feet. So with that being said, my in-game goal for this space is to be able to grow enough food for me and my family to eat fresh and to put up for the off season, to last, you know, until the season comes back in. But I also want to do some market gardening. So for those of you not familiar, market gardening is essentially growing stuff to sell. So growing stuff to sell at like a farmer's market or through like a CSA box type situation, or just direct to people. So in the state of Indiana, which is where I am, I don't necessarily have to have like a grower's license to do produce. I do have to have licenses for, if I do any like mushrooms or microgreens, I have to have licenses for those. But if I'm just gonna do straight produce, I don't necessarily have to have a license to do that. Especially if I sell at the farmer's market, I don't have to have like a grower's license to sell produce at a market. So with all that being said, that is the in-game goal for this space, is to be able to sell at market. Now obviously this is not like acres and acres and acres of land. This is 1,600 square feet. Our whole lot is 1/3 of an acre. So much bigger than what we had before, like much bigger than what we had before. My garden is like 5 times bigger than the old house garden was, which is crazy to me. But I grew so much in that small space that it just blows my mind. But to get back to my point, when I created this space for this year, I didn't really know. I had a plan, but like it wasn't a plan. It was just kind of like an idea of how I wanted things to go in my head. And now that I have it, I realize I have all this space like here in the middle that doesn't have anything in it, and it never did, even before it had to be dug up. It was just kind of, I have this problem where I start around the edges and then I work my way into the middle, and then by the time I get to the middle there's nothing left, and so the middle just ends up empty, which I don't know why I do that, but that's what I do. That's what I do. So for next year, I am considering doing more of a row structure out here instead of just having stuff kind of spaced randomly. I think that I can plant a lot more stuff out here if I did go to like a row structure out here versus just having things just kind of randomly wherever they ended up. So that's what I'm thinking. Obviously, like, we're still in the middle of this season, so I'm not gonna be doing that now. But for next spring, I think I am going to work on establishing some rows versus what I did this year, which is more just kind of random placement. I don't really know how to describe it. But that's kind of my thought, because I know I can fit a lot more stuff out here and get a lot more production out of this space, and that's my goal, is to ramp up the production of this space to then in turn at some point be able to sell at market. So I do have a lot of wasted space in this garden this year, and I did that on purpose. I knew that my soil was probably not like where it needed to be in terms of the amount of organic matter present. And I have found that to be mostly true. I have been working pretty hard this year on getting, you know, compost teas put down, and I started my worm farm. And so I think those will definitely help. They already are helping. I've been doing compost teas semi-regularly. I try to do one every week or so when I remember to do it. And I have been spraying them like as a foliar spray, and also just watering with them. And the peppers, those are alive because of compost teas. and that is a fact, because they looked so bad. I made a batch of compost tea and watered them really nice and deep with that, and now they look really great. So compost tea, compost tea, compost tea. I will sing the praises of a compost tea every single day of the week if it makes my plants do what they have done in the soil and in the situation that they're in this year. Obviously, part of that is on me. The tomatoes, some of them look kind of spindly, and that's on me because I let the grass and the weeds get so bad. But, you know, this is a big undertaking for one person. So I'm giving myself grace on that as well. And I'm just really glad that I have tomatoes. You know, I have a lot of tomatoes out here. A lot of them are really nice and big. My cherry tomatoes are all fine. After they were moved, they are setting a ton of flowers right now because it did cool off this weekend and we've had some cool nights, which they like. So yes, very excited about that. But yeah, that's just kind of my little brainchild thought that I've been playing with in my brain since I've been laying on the couch and stuff so much recently. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I am really happy with how this space is starting to look. Obviously, it looks different than I thought it would at this point, but I also kind of think it looks, I don't know, better maybe? I think it really will look better when the clover that I planted starts to actually like grow and become clover. You can see it now, it's real small, but it just looks like the tiniest little baby clover, and I just love it so much. So I'm excited to see how that changes this space up also, because I know it will, and I know it's gonna look really, really nice out here. For now, I'm gonna go refresh my coffee and get my day started. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.